The farm lake. Yeah, it's a venue that's proper got under my skin.
Pure fighting machine.
It looks a belter. Should go 4-0. Looks a 4-0.
The farm lake. Yeah, a venue that it's a proper love-hate relationship. So I absolutely love the farm lake. It just hates me. It proper hates me. Like I went out this year on a trip only a month ago in the sort of back end of April, but I did get out there sort of 3 years ago, back in 22, sort of in the January time. I remember I was still at the time working at the tackle shop. I had my own tackle shop then, and I remember getting a WhatsApp off Harry saying, "Mate, are you available in the May for a fox trip with the consultants to go abroad and fish for some giants?" And I didn't even check the calendar. It was just absolutely yes. At the time, see, I was just a sponsored angler, so I was one of their sort of B team, I suppose you could call it that. And I think a couple of the consultants couldn't make the trip, so sort of see who next in line could. So I got the call, and just the chance to go out with them boys and fish with the likes of Sean McSpadden and Mark Pitchers and Andy Maker and Harry. Do you know what I mean? It was what a great experience. But to be surrounded by good anglers on a huge pit chasing sort of 70-pounders, dream come true. So it was like absolutely yes. So we got out there in the May. The farm lake is just a phenomenal water. I absolutely love it. It's set in like 75 acres of land. The lake itself is just over 50 acres, and it is just the most picturesque, beautiful place. You're in the middle of nowhere, and it is the closest you'll get to sort of public lake fishing without it being public lake, if that makes sense. It has that feel about it, but you just it's beat me up a few times now. That being the first time, but that week coming out with the Fox lads, like, we had everything. We had 30 degrees heat, crazy hot weather. The mosquitoes are like literally, they are tattooed. They are massive. We all got absolutely battered by them. This was sort of middle of May, and we had everything that week. We had crazy storms. I remember we're having a cup of tea in Sean McSpadden's bivvy, and his right hand or middle rod goes, and he's out there playing one, and it's trashing with the rain, lightning, and absolute savage weather. And McSpod is playing one in this. Jesus, it's unbelievable. We've got thunder, lightning, and Sean is attached to a farm lake carp. Crazy. Everyone, like, we're all in the group, and everyone's just like, just take cover. It's ridiculous. But Sean's out there playing one, you know. And I fished next to Sean for the week, and I learned so much from him. He's a very good angler, and it was just a week of watching Sean picking up these giants. You know, I think he had them up to sort of 69. But just good, constant angling, really good angling throughout the 7 days. I did chip in myself. I did have a lovely fish. Real, not one you'd sort of see in France, really. It was really brown and chestnut. A wicked fish, sort of just over the 40. I think it was 42 or something, 41, something like that. And yeah, great scrap, good battle in the boat. And that was on, I think I landed that on like the Monday. I'm thinking, I should have a few then. And I just got the rest of the week just kicked me in the arse. I had a couple of roach, I had a bream, and I think I had like a 20, 25 pounder towards the end of the week, but that was it. but the bug had gripped, you know, and I want to get back out there. You know, I saw Harry catching monsters as well. Andy Maker was there catching. To be fair, Andy moved a few times as well. Got on the fish, caught well, and it was just such a great buzz to be round those sort of anglers, learning lots. And I vowed I was going to get back out there. So as soon as our trip finished, I spoke to the owner, Ross, and I was like, mate, just put us down. And it was quite busy, he was. So it was sort of 3 years before I could get back to the farm lake. And that's where I sort of ventured to, yeah, this spring, this April just gone. So when you're traveling to France, especially when you've had a trip booked for so long, you know, in your mind's eye, you've built up how you think your week's going to go. You've got a plan, you've got everything set out and sort of laid out in my head what I was going to do. I sort of not had a preconceived idea, because I think it's really important to assess what's in front of you. You know, it's been 3 years since I've been there. Lots change, lakes change, areas that were fishable are now not fishable. Weed beds that once were there are now not, and they've grown in new areas. So, you know, a lake is forever changing, especially over sort of 3 years. But I remember getting there on the Saturday, really buzzed up. We did a walk of the lake. I had a few swims picked in my head as well where I wanted to go. Unfortunately, those sort of swims I wanted sort of got grabbed by the other lads before I had the chance in the draw. So I found myself picking peg 4, I think it was. Yeah, it was peg 4. I always get confused from the last one, but it was peg 4. They'd redone the swims, actually. The last time I was there, Mark and Harry fished on a point together, and the swim that Mark was in, they've now closed that one and sort of letting it grow up. So the numbers have all changed on the swim. So I was in swim 4 this week, and really eager to get going. You know, a lot of water in front of me. Like I say, the farm lake, you've literally got everything from, oh, there's gravel bars, there's humps, there's bumps, there's plateaus, there's weed beds, it's got everything you could possibly want in the 50 odd acres. But there was only 6 of us, and I do think, yeah, sometimes you do need a few more. When you're fishing a lake of that size, you definitely need numbers to fill in those gaps where the fish can move to. You know, we left areas free, and leaving an area free on a 50-acre pit means you're leaving 5-6 acres of water. Well, the fish just move into those spots, and they're happy just sitting there away from lines. But arrived on the Saturday, you've got your swim choice. I was absolutely buzzing. I had, you know, I've prepped everything. I had my rigs done, my bait. I've everything I could possibly have ready. I was geared up for this trip to make amends, really. I wanted to go back there and do the do, basically. I wanted to go and hit it hard, catch some good uns, and in my mind's eye I was like, right, if I have 3 or 4, let's go for 3. We'll go for 3 fish, and that's the sort of target I had in my head, because it's not an easy water. You know, it kicks a lot of people in the arse. It's kicked me in the arse once, and you know, it was a case of, well, would it do this again to me? But this time I was geared up. I was a lot more sort of in the armoury, if you like, to tackle or try and tame a 50-acre water in a hope that you catch one of its giants, you know. So got to the swim, remember getting all the kit out, and you know, before I had to do it, I had to film a bivvy and do some work stuff. Got all that done, moved into the swim, set my camp up for the week. And you know, you're there for a week, so I like a bit of comfort. I don't see the point in struggling. I don't mind overnighters and a couple of days where you're roughing it at home and things like that, and trying to keep or take minimal kit. But you know, I was there for a week. I wanted comfort, so I brought the kitchen sink. I literally did. I had my Fox XD bivvy. I had the super extension. I had a tarp. I had a fridge. It's a bit of a drive and survive there. There's no sort of food packages, so you sort of make your own stuff. So I thought, you know, I'm going to be comfortable. I'm going to be working on the bank as well, editing bits and pieces. So I thought, right, I need a bit of an office area as well. So yeah, I took everything, and I put it up, and people, I got absolutely slated for it. A few of them are, oh my God, look at why are you taking all that kit? Look, that's ridiculous. Must take you days to set up. And I'm like, you're there for a week. Be comfortable. Why would you not be comfortable for 7 days? It's mad. And to be fair, it only took me, it's 2 hours. It literally took me 2 hours to set everything up and have my castle ready. And I thought, once it's done, right, I'm ready to go to work on the lake. And this would have been Saturday afternoon now. Went out to the boat, and at this point, I started to feel quite poorly. Like my gut started to hurt. I started to sweat, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? It just didn't feel right. Anyway, got out in the boat, trying to find spots, very, very weedy in front of me, in front of peg 4, and you're sort of drifting about and trying to find your areas. And I remember what I was doing was going out there with the deeper with my phone, and you're sort of just flicking the deeper out and just scanning about. And a big tip I would say is, once you get to an area, instead of just bobbing around in the boat trying to find, it's very easy to get, you drift about and you sort of forget where you're going and where you've been. So what I always do, I go out there in an area that I think I might find a spot. I always throw a H block out. It just gives you a bearing to work with. If you start drifting on 50 acres, you know, you can drift 40 yards, right? You know it, and you're thinking, oh, I'm sure it was around here. And it stops you having to sort of keep looking at the swim and keeping in line. So I always go out, H block straight out, and it gives you a bearing to work on. So once I've dropped my H block, I'll then start working an area, trying to find, you know, sort of an area to fish to, really. And I was trying to find a sort of feature. I wanted a raised area, you know, weed free if I could. I wanted to put a lot of bait on it, get the rods on it to create a feeding zone, a feeding area. That's what I had in my mind's eye. It's what worked really well for Sean on his trip when I was last there. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to follow that man's suit, because he absolutely smacked it. Sean was, what he did, he went out, and I remember him showing me, like, he went out and he found an area that was sort of about 16, 15 foot. It raised up to sort of 14, 13 foot, but on it, it had quite a bit of weed. And when I say quite a bit, I'm probably talking about a good 1.5 foot of weed, you know. But it was a nice sort of plateau area, but it had all this weed on it. And he went out there and just literally horsed a load of pellet onto it, came back and just left it. And then went back out sort of 3 days later or 2 days later, and the bream had come in and absolutely smacked this weed to pieces. So the weed was like this, is now like this. It's literally dropped. They've smashed it to pieces so much where the weed now is probably like 1.5 inches. Couldn't believe it. You know, he's created a spot from giving him a load of bait. The bream had done the work for him. Now you can present rigs on it. You know, you can get some hinges out there, you can get some chods out there. And that's what he did. And I think off that spot alone, he had like a couple of 50s and a 69, and just unbelievable, just good angling, you know, without being technical and making things or life harder for yourself. You know, he let nature do the work for him, which I think was just really, you know, kudos to that man. I was like, I like that. I'll keep that for me. And that's what I had in my mind. I thought, if I find that same scenario, I'm going to do the same. And once I got the H block out, messed around with the deeper, straight away found that scenario. So it wasn't as thick as weed as what Sean had. I probably had about 6 inches on the actual hump that I found. It was sort of 14 foot raised to this sort of bar that runs down the middle of the lake. It's only a subtle bar, but it's sort of raised to sort of 12, 13 foot. So not much, there's not a lot of features in front of the swim I was in, but you had got this gradual raised area. So, and on it, you know, I had this sort of 6 inches of weed. So I'm using the prodding stick here, and it's, as you can see there, it's nice, it's proper firm, and it seems to be sort of a 10 foot radius around where you can see that H block in the water there. Sort of a 10 foot around it is that sort of feeling, proper like nice and firm. So I'm going to do a little bit more homework around it just to absolutely make sure, and I reckon I can get 2 rods on here comfortably with a good spread of bait. So another sort of 10 minutes having a probe, and yeah, we'll go from there. But it's looking good, it's looking good. Everything was set up perfectly. I managed to get a load of bait on these areas, H blocks back in, back to the bank, and that's when it hit me. Oh my God, I felt so rough, like ridiculous. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I lay on the bed chair, and that was it. I managed just about to get the 2 rods out onto that spot. I didn't put much out. I probably kicked off with probably about 7 or 8 kilo, which is nothing for that lake. It's absolutely minuscule. 7 or 8 kilo is pittance to start at the start of a week on a venue like that, holding that sort of stock of fish. But I managed to, the baits I was using 15 and 18 mil mix of bug and SLK, pellets, corn, a load of bug liquid as well. You know, I wanted that big buffet effect. One, to clear the weed. I knew there was a chance that the bream may come in. The bream had spawned the week before, so they were proper on the munch, but I knew they would come in and smack that spot. And going back to the bivvy and literally dying. I remember waking up on the Sunday. I'd had 2 bream by then already, so getting out, reeling these bream in, just feeling like utter death. You know, I remember at one stage I only had 1 rod out. I can't go out to do this, and I left it to the morning. Sunday morning, woke up, and I tell you what, honestly, if I could have hit a button and gone home, I would have done. I was so poorly. I was just no energy, hot sweats, cold sweats. Couldn't eat anything. Bad, just horrendous. The worst place you can be is on the bank when you're ill. It's horrible. And I think from the from the Saturday to the Sunday to the Monday night, I'd done 5 full toilet rolls. I was so ill, honest to God. I think it was my relationship was just with the camping toilet. My God, it was just horrendous. And so it wasn't until the Tuesday I started feeling a bit better. I remember waking up going, oh my God, I actually feel okay. Not brilliant, but I can do stuff today. I might be able to get out of the boat and start fishing properly and stuff. By that time, I think I'd had sort of 4 bream now off this bloody spot. But yeah, Tuesday morning rolled around, felt better, finally could start eating food. So that made me feel loads better. I had my first coffee when I was there, and I was like, yes, here we go. I'm over the worst of it, and we can get back out angling. I went back out to the spot and looked at put the deeper out, and the bream had done exactly what they did with Sean. You know, that 6 inches of weed that had now dropped down to sort of an inch. They'd smashed it to pieces. Obviously, I've had bream during that time, but you know, the job I wanted them to do had been done. So I was thinking, right, it's all out carp now. So I left the pellet alone. It was all about the boilie. I chucked a loaded boilie on it, that 15 and 18 mil mix of SLK and bug, 2 rods back on the spot, exactly the same. The rigs were pretty simple as well. What I wanted, the rig side of things now, because we had this sort of low, the weed was sort of about 1 inch thick, if that makes sense, but it was a mixture of sort of Canadian and that candy floss weed, that horrible fluffy stuff. And now I always use normally the Illusion for my boom section, but I wanted something a little bit sort of softer, more supple really, so it would find its way, you know, when I'm sort of feeling it down from the boat, because you're boating your rigs out and you're dropping them on the spot. But you know, on that drop, as the sort of bait's kicking away, I wanted it to sort of follow the weed, but I wanted it to go over the weed and over that candy floss. And I think sometimes having those sort of fluoro hook links can hinder that, even though the Illusion is mega soft and it does follow to a degree. I just wanted something a little bit more supple, so I reached for our Camotex. Reached for the Camotex in 25 pound, I think it was, and it was a semi-stiff sort of braid, so it was enough to kick the rig away, but also supple enough to follow or sit over that weed as well. So I had that on stiff hinges, you know, balanced pop-ups as well, some nice orange bugs, and that's what we went out with on. This would have been the Tuesday night. And I'm start, you know, you're at Tuesday now and you're thinking, bloody hell, I've been here, I've done sort of the Saturday, Sunday, Monday night, we're into the 4th day, I haven't had a carp, and you start thinking about those head gremlins, don't you? You know, it's, you start thinking, Christ, am I staring down the barrel of a blank here? So I had it in my mind that I was going to move. If I had nothing by Wednesday, I was going to move. I thought, I'll give it another night now. You know, I know the spot's right, I know the rigs are sitting right, we've got boilies that they're eating and loving. The spot was clear. I was like, right, you know, it's got to happen tonight for me. I was making sure everything was absolutely perfect, you know, taking my time, and even on the spot, I was like, you know, dropping it down. And even if I was just, I remember dropping it going, bump, oh, that's nice. And then that little gremlin on my shoulder going, yeah, but what if it's not sitting right? And I'm like, oh, reeling it back up again, and donk, perfect. Was it quite perfect? For fuck's sake, back up again. I must have done that about 5 or 6 times until I was absolutely bombed. That's the one, right, that's the one, right. turn the boat around gingerly, and then gently back to the swim. So that spot was I know that was ready to go. I was so confident on that spot. The right hand rod, I had that on a zig, and I think I put it out there with the boat. I didn't cast the zig. I went out to the area, middle of the lake. I think I was fishing like an 8-foot zig, popped it down, back to the rest. Within an hour, we were away. It's sort of wallowing around in the middle of the lake, and I'm sort of just playing it, and it starts to come towards me. And I remember just hitting a weed bed. There is so much weed out there, and I thought, hit this weed bed. I was like, right, get in the boat. Went to look for the boat, and as soon as I've looked for the boat, I'm like, that feels slack. That feels slack. So I've reeled it in, and I'm just like, oh, I can't believe it. I've reeled it, and it's off. I've lost it. The elation that I had from having the take to this absolutely pit of despair was awful. I was so like, from being on my ass for best part of 4 days to then getting a take. Fucking pile of shit. Fuck off. Oh, it's horrible losing him, innit? You know, we hate losing him, but that hurt, that proper hurt. It was just one of them, you know, fish berries in the weed, hook pull, you know, you're fishing size 8 hooks for big carp on a big pit in lots of weed. You know, hindsight, should I have used bigger hooks? Possibly. But they're always if, buts and maybes after you've sort of finished it. But dusted myself down. Back out there again, confidence now. I thought, right, we're just going to keep that zig going, you know. So I was back out to the spot, put the zig back out exactly where it was, back to the bank, and everything is set. Everything is set. I remember getting back in the bivvy, sitting there, watching the sun go down. You know, the farm lake there is just that bank, that bank that runs from peg 1 to peg 6. The sunsets there are just insane. They're just so bliss. And I remember sitting down and thinking, you know, sometimes in life you go through all the crap and the crud that you get into and the bad sort of situations and just not the woe is me stuff, but you sort of reflect on life. And I remember sitting behind those rods on that Tuesday thinking, my God, this is absolutely amazing. Do you know what I mean? Thinking, I am so blessed to be able to sit here with this as my view. And I stayed out most of the night. You know, I watched the moon come up, I watched the stars come out, and it was just incredible. And it was just one of those sort of a privileged, you know, I feel very, very privileged is what I'm trying to say, of being able to look at and have that view that a lot of many people don't get to see. So yeah, it was one of those sort of thankful moments really. And I remember getting into my sleeping bag thinking, it's got to happen, surely it's got to happen. And then 3 a.m, alarm goes into meltdown, and we got one. We got one.
Here we go, guys. Into the net. It looks a decent one, to be fair, doesn't it? Can't believe how much warm the water is now, but look at that. Got a bit of a tank in the net. And honestly, he took out all, like, look at all this line. That is not all my line. He was attached to that branch that he picked up down the margin. So whatever line has been wrapped around that, that's come in with him. So it was just complete and utter mess trying to bundle him in the net. But either way, one, we've got all that line at the margins that's been sat there. And two, we've got a decent fish in the net. And that looks a proper one. £53. 53, we'll just say 53. I'm happy with that. Absolutely mental. Get in there. Yes. And I was just about to sort the mat and the cameras out, and this little guy has popped along onto the sling. I'm guessing he's just checking if his mate's okay. And he is, dude. I can tell you he is a healthy £53. He's been troughing, and you keep an eye on him while I go and get the camera and the mat sorted. But yeah, thanks for popping along, dude. just so elated, guys, like you wouldn't believe. So after having the worst start in the world to a France trip, of being written off for nearly the first 3 days with illness and horribleness, to now be looking down at a 53 pounder is just unbelievable. Proper thick set of fish, this one. Wait, hang on, Bill. Oh, have a look at that. At 53 pound. Oh, I'm buzzing. I'm so happy. One, because we chose the right spot. Stiff hinge rig that we put out doing its business and just trusting in the magic, and then a little bit of lady luck on top gives you a prize like this. So, oh, I'm buzzing. I'm so happy. Mega. Thursday morning. Is it Thursday? No, it's Wednesday morning. Just getting ahead of myself. Wednesday morning. So yeah, buzzing, absolutely buzzing. So made up, 53 pound, and I could not be happier. Cheshire Cat grin is well and truly back. Wow. Right, let me show you the other side of this amazing farm lake mirror. There we go. There's the other side of an incredible 53 pound mirror. Mega, absolutely mega. Oh, I'm so happy, guys. So happy. The patience has all come good, and it's all worthwhile when you're cradling one of these amazing looking beasties. 53. Yes. Herbie. We'll call her Herbie. Oh, right, let's get you back. Job done. 53 pounds, absolutely buzzing. And I had it in my head, I was going to move. I was so going to move. Got up on the Wednesday morning with that in my belt and thinking, job done. You know, I've had a 53 pound there. I wanted a 50, but now it was about, can I get another one? You know, can we now start building the swim? And I kept seeing fish down to my right hand side in swim 6. And again, so much water down there. You know, it's probably about 10 acres not being fished, and they just moved into that area, and I kept seeing them, and I'm thinking, do I move now off the spot? I've just had we had one off the zig in the area, or, you know, surrounding area. We've had a 53 off the spot. But I was like, do I move? You know, the fish are showing themselves in 6. Do I move? So I sat on my hands that day, and I sort of made a promise. We'll give it to the Thursday morning. If I have nothing now for 24 hours, I'm going to move. Thursday rolled around, guys, and, you know, it was time to move. I had nothing off the spot. There was fish being caught up at the top in peg 1. Peg 1's water, and peg sort of 15 up that area in the shallows. But I kept seeing fish to my right-hand side. I'm like, I've got to move. So it was the big move. It was sort of all the kit, all that lot, and then thinking I've got to find spots. But I thought I've got 2 nights left. And that's what I did. I moved all my kit down into 6, got out in the boat, found some absolutely beautiful spots, you know, around weed bed, but nice and clear, going down with a donk, handful of bait over it, you know, all just solid angling, making sure everything was on point and perfect and right. And as soon as I did that and got settled, I remember getting up on the Friday morning, and they were just showing up top end of the lake again, because from peg 6, you had nobody from peg 6 all the way up to peg 1. You know, you're probably talking 20 acres of water. And unfortunately, you know, you got 4 lines out where I was in 6, and they just moved out of that corner as I was going out in the boat, dropping leads and things like that, making a commotion as you do. You know, unfortunately, there was just a lot of areas for the fish to move out of that and up into, you know, free land. They probably went straight onto the spot I had a good month, you know what I mean, free feed, and thought, this is lovely. Do you know what I mean? If I'd have stayed, do you know what I mean? But then if I stayed, would they have moved out of 6? And that's the sort of scenario I was in. And that's angling, you know. This is why I said on those big pits, it's sometimes better to have more anglers to fill in those gaps so you can bounce the fish about. Unfortunately,
you know, where I was, there was just a lot of the lake where the fish could just go and hold up and move if they needed to without having to be bothered. And it was a case of just chasing the fish. But, you know, plagued by bream, ill as you like at the start, lost one on a zig, had a 53, but absolutely loved my time on the farm lake. It's a stunning, stunning venue. One that I will 100% be returning to very, very soon. And who knows, third time lucky, we might be able to build a week properly. This time I'll try and keep myself from being ill for the first 4 days. But either way, it's a phenomenal place. I absolutely love it. And there's no doubt in my mind I'll be going back very, very soon. Hopefully this year. You know, I've got one eye maybe on the back end of this year if I get a bit of time and get across over there. It's only 4 hours from sort of Calais, so it's quite a quick drive as well. So who knows? I know Andy Maker does a bit of time on there as well. So who knows? Might be able to sort of see what he's doing if he's out there. Sort of have a social with him while I'm there. But yeah, can't recommend the farm lake enough, and I'll be definitely going out. Who knows? Third time lucky, eh? Guys, once again, thank you ever so much for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it, and without doubt, I really, really enjoyed my trip to the farm lake from the Tuesday onwards. But I enjoyed myself. It's a great place, and I will be returning. But once again, thank you ever so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give us a like and a subscribe to the channel. You can also follow myself and my little mate Henry the Hound over on social pages as well, on the likes of Facebook and Instagram, and we're even on TikTok now. You might even get a dance out of me. But once again, thank you for watching, and thank you for supporting the channel, and we'll see you on the next one.